Okay, hi Sue.
Hi, Matilda.
It's lovely to see you. This has been a work in progress for quite a while now. For the benefit of viewers, my name is Matilda Borden, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, but we met online through Facebook, if I'm not mistaken.
We should do was stalking each other, weren't we?
Yes, we were stalking each other. I was taking notice of a lot of your posts about people with disabilities, and you have often advocated for people with disabilities and highlighted injustices in the system.
Yep.
And that really, really did very much, I guess, speak to my heart. And we kind of connected for quite a while before we actually got a chance to meet face to face. So, and then you also saw a couple of videos which I did with two of my NDIS friends.
Yep.
And you expressed interest in having a similar video where you could give your lived experience
Yep.
out in the public. So this is an opportunity for you to have your say, because you've had an awful lot to say about injustices in the system and how very poorly you've been treated. And I'm very intrigued in your story. So first of all, can I ask you, obviously, your full name, please?
My name is Susan Williams.
Now, Susan, you have a number of disabilities. Would you like to share?
Where would you like to start? From feet to head or head to feet? Okay, I was born in the 60s and I had hip dysplasia and deformed feet. One specialist called me moth feet, another one says you got unusual feet, and my reply is if you were born with my feet and had my operation, you'd have unusual feet too. Or I'm definitely that I fall over a lot. I've been in all the aids, frog casts, calipers, and yeah, they tried to repair my bones and that. Don't perform the feet operation no more, but my hips was done and my doctor died in between. Yeah, and I've had a lot of learning disabilities and issues throughout my life. I was undiagnosed autistic and ADHD. I've had over 20 operations. Yeah, things go wrong with my body all the time, so... And I've gone through a lot of medical abuse, gaslighting, some of these treatments, physical treatments and tests are far worse than major surgeries. But it's even worse with the attitude of the medical profession. So, yeah, I've experienced a lot of abuse throughout my entire life.
Now Susan, if you don't mind sharing, how tall are you?
4'9", I think that's 144. Metrics, and yeah, and I weigh 41.5.
Now, the reason I asked you that question is so that viewers can get a little idea of how very petite you are. In fact, you actually stand, even with heels, shorter than my shoulders.
Yes, sure does. I've been harassed a long time by police, so in my 20s, I asked them why they keep harassing me, and their smart-ass reply was, never trust anyone who's short, with a limp and tattoos. Well, my mum says anyone with half a brain would know I don't have a limp. I actually have a gait in my walk.
So it was important to set that scene because of your story, which will follow shortly. And I guess one of the things that you really wanted to share about your story is how very detrimental and stigmatizing your disabilities have been on your life and how they have shaped and influenced your life. Now, can I just say for all the viewers, I've known you now for quite a while. I've even lost count, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I've known you for quite a while. I've never known you to be mentally incompetent. I've never known you to be unreasonable to have a conversation with. Of course, you and I are both extremely opinionated about a lot of things.
And you know what? So of the doctors and nurses and mental health.
Yeah. But I do want people to understand that you are not mentally unwell and you are not cognitively impaired,
No.
because everything that follows from here is really your lived experience and how your disabilities have, I guess, shaped you and how you see the world, but also how the world sees you. Would that sound fair?
Yes, the world says me. Some people just want to be like me, and some people get so jealous, and some people just see me as a threat. I even get told that I put people to shame, or I put themselves to shame, and it's like, how can I be responsible for putting people to shame of their own laziness and treatment?
So one of the important things about today really is for you to be able to tell viewers some of the critical events that led up to an incident that happened to you on the 15th of May 2024. Now, Susan, you've spent quite a number of weeks writing your lived experience statement, and that was written so that you could condense a very complicated and very detailed story.
Yep.
So that viewers can understand it, basically. So from here, would you just like to read your statement? One of the things that I would like to let viewers know is that I will reprint the statement as you're holding in your hand, exactly as it is, on Substack. And at a later date, if you or anybody else wants to reprint it elsewhere, that's your prerogative. With your permission, if you wish, when this video is done, I will upload it onto my Rumble channel. But again, you are also welcome to post that either on YouTube or any other social media forum that you wish when we finalise this film. So with that, would you like to say things in your own words, and I won't interrupt you?
Thank you, Matilda. My name is Susan Williams, and I never imagined that trying to help someone would end up with me losing thousands of dollars, losing an assist puppy that had become part of my family, and being violently attacked. I've always been someone who believes that if you see another person struggling, you help if you can. That's how I was raised, and with disabilities myself, is how I've tried to live my life. A couple of years ago, I became aware of Hayden through an online support group on Facebook. Like many people in those groups, he presented himself as someone who was disadvantaged and who was trying to advocate for others experiencing poverty and homelessness. I had no reason to distrust him. I also thought that as I am binary and he is gay, I thought I was safe. I wasn't helping because I expected anything in return. I was helping because I genuinely believed it was the right thing to do. As time went on, I learned that his life was chaotic. There were constant crises, housing problems, and a large number of dogs and puppies that needed looking after. I could see animals that weren't getting the care they deserve, and I couldn't simply ignore that. In January 2024, Hayden was homeless and had 5 dogs and 3 puppies. I opened my home and tried to help. Looking back now, I realised just how much I took on. The dogs needed feeding, they needed cleaning up after, they needed veterinary care, but I thought Hayden was a responsible dog owner and registered breeder, so he would be responsible for his own dogs. I could not have been more wrong. My problem started the very first night Hayden stayed at my place. Our deal was that he would clean up after himself and pay his utilities. And Hayden's deal was that I would pay $120 for microchipping and vaccine chemo. Unknown to me, he used my money to microchip all 3 puppies, but didn't vax any of them. The first few days of Hayden being at my place with the dogs, he was coming and going frequently. And it was on day 3 that Hayden gave me one of the puppies, Kimi. I remembered how excited I was. He didn't just hand me the puppy, he actually messaged me saying he was giving Kimi to me because I was a good person. Those words meant something to me. I believe he genuinely wanted Kimi to have a stable, loving home. From that moment on, I treated Kimi as my own. On the 4th morning, he woke me up screaming, "Diarrhea!" and slamming the front door behind him. I woke up only to discover that my new bedding was totally destroyed because the dogs had soiled the quilt and sheets. I was forced to do the cleanup on my own. While Hayden shot through, I didn't know he would dump 8 dogs on me to care for once over a week after this. In the meantime, I was forced to spend my own money buying dog food because there wasn't any for the dogs. I eventually borrowed more than $1,400 plus my pension, which took me 6 months to pay off, with nothing to show for it, just to make sure Kimi was well cared for. I bought food, I organised veterinary treatment, I paid money towards vaccination and microchipping. I look forward to watching him grow into an adult dog. Like anyone who ever owned a pet knows, it doesn't take long before they're not just an animal, they become family. But things changed quickly with Hayden. Hayden became increasingly difficult to deal with. Agreements that had seemed perfectly clear suddenly weren't clear anymore. Things he said previously were denied. Promises were broken. Amidst all this, Hayden sent abusive messages via Messenger and texts and attacked a friend of mine online. Hayden then went on to defame me online and attack my posts while domming himself in. My support workers and a friend of his were sending me screenshots of his attack on me as I had blocked him. It was during this time that I became aware that he had a serious drug addiction and the puppies he was selling were being used to fund his habits. Without my knowledge or consent, Hayden registered Kimi in his own name and tricked me into returning Kimi because I could no longer vaccinate him, and he made a false report of theft against me to council and police. After this, I couldn't get Kimi back. I couldn't understand why someone who had freely given me a puppy would do that. It made me feel that perhaps everything hadn't been as genuine as I had believed. Eventually, he took Kimi back altogether and reneged on his promise of gifting me a puppy. I fell in love with it. It's difficult to explain how upsetting that was. People sometimes think it's only a dog, but it wasn't only a dog. It was months of caring, months of expenses, months of love, months of training, and months of believing. I was given an animal a safe future. To have that taken away was devastating for both of us. 16 months later, when Kimi was 18 months old, I would discover that he was still microchipped to me as he ran away twice. 2 vets and the RSPCA contacted me between September and October 2025 to say I was liable for Kimi as he was not dissexed and roaming. But I couldn't by then not take Kimi back as I no longer had any of his gear. which I had donated much earlier. That left me very traumatised. During my separation from Kimi in April and May 2024, I was suicidal. I did go to the Elizabeth police station on 15th of April, but my complaint about Hayden's threats and the theft of Kimi was ignored. I was told in front of my disability support worker that it was, quote, a civil matter, and they would not intervene. As I was told it was a civil matter, I tried to handle things civilly. Even then, I still never imagined the situation would become violent. On 15th of May 2024, everything came to a head. I decided I would go to pick up Kimi with a girlfriend from Queensland. By visiting Hayden and asked to get the puppy back. Instead, I found myself confronted by Hayden together with two women and another man. I only had enough time to ask 3 questions. Is Hayden there? A male resident positioned between 2 girls answered no. I asked, where is he? He said, I don't know. I asked, when will he be back? He said, I don't know. Immediately, Hayden revealed himself from another door, shouting, you dead bitch, after he came at me with a metal baseball bat. I suddenly realised I wasn't dealing with a disagreement anymore. I was surrounded and I genuinely feared for my safety. I later learned that one of his female friends tried to throw a blanket over me, which was intended to entrap me on the property and prevent me from leaving the premises. Everything happened incredibly quickly. I remember feeling frightened and overwhelmed. I also remember being fearful of having a fall due to my physical disabilities. While trying to escape the situation, I am a runner. I like to run away from problems. I remember thinking that I needed to protect myself as I could not outrun Hayden. In that moment, I used capstan spray up in the open air to buy me time to get out of the situation because I honestly believed I had no other option. It wasn't something I'd ever wanted to do. It wasn't about aggression. It wasn't about survival. I was scared. I have been bashed in a domestic violence situation and sexually assaulted in the past and never intended to put myself in that situation as a defenceless disabled woman again. No one expects that trying to rescue animals and help another human being will end up with violence. When I look back now, that's probably the hardest part to process. I entered this whole situation because I wanted to help. I wasn't trying to make money. It cost me a lot. I wasn't trying to create conflict. I wasn't trying to take advantage of anyone. If anything, I was the one who kept giving, financially, emotionally, and practically. I gave my time, my energy, my home, and my compassion. Instead of gratitude, I was left with financial loss, emotional trauma, and injuries that have stayed with me long after the incident itself. I am now facing 3 assault charges and have spent 2 years defending myself from lies told by Hayden and his drug addict mates. The great injustice in all this is not the charges against me, but that police will do nothing to charge Hayden, and there is nothing I can do to make him accountable. Police will do nothing to charge Hayden for making a physical threat on my life, and two female reports before the incident, two false reports before the incident. Meanwhile, Hayden continued to breed and sell puppies and promotes himself as a spokesperson for homelessness in mainstream social media, despite deceptively subletting his home to Airbnb guests. And it's still up there, by the way, the only house. I was not Hayden's first victim, and there have been at least 9 others since me. The experience has changed me. It has made me much more cautious about trusting people. It has made me question whether acts of kindness can sometimes be exploited by people who know exactly how to manipulate compassionate and vulnerable people. That's a sad lesson to learn. I don't regret being someone who wants to help others, but I do regret ignoring warning signs because I wanted to believe the best in someone. I'm trying to tell my story. I'm telling my story because these situations don't always happen the way people imagine. Sometimes exploitation doesn't begin with threats. It begins with trust. It begins with someone asking for help. It begins with believing and doing the right thing. By the time you realise something is wrong, you're emotionally invested, financially committed, and trying to untangle yourself from a situation you never expected to be in. I can't change what happened to me, but I can tell the truth about my experience. If sharing my story helps even one person recognise the warning signs or gives another victim the courage to speak up, then at least something positive can come from everything I've been through. I just want to read 2 quick poems. One is, if theft, false reports to police and council, bullying, lies, coercion, manipulation, slander, narcissistic police narc, setting up victims, falsifying threats, metal baseball bat, weapons, etc., all civil. Yet self-defense, saving your own life, being a female, having disabilities, and being a victim of is a crime, then your life is not worth defending or saving. Nothing else matters. And then I came into this world kidnapped by the human species in order to experiment repairing my bones, damage my brain from start to go out organless, and no rights or say as their scapegoat. Yet they think they are my victims. What the F? And if anybody wants to see evidence of the story and key me, I have all the evidence here.
Thank you, Sue. I'm sorry about your rather traumatic and horrific experience, and just listening to you tell me the story, I feel very distressed by what you've been put through. And I think for me, there's a greater sense of injustice insofar as the police refusing to charge Hayden with offences himself. Now, for people who are not overly familiar, Sue, you've been campaigning for the legal use of pepper spray. Capsicum spray, is there another legal term for that?
Yeah, then I call it pepper spray. I don't know why, if the title I got was capsicum spray. I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, capsicum was a vegetable I fed to my birds.
Yeah, but you've been campaigning for the legal use of effectively what they call
Yeah.
pepper spray.
There is a lady, I do have the Facebook group asking to legalise pepper spray, but there is a lady that started a petition in January, because I keep going back to research and going back from the word go, and I found her by accident, so I think it was on the NDIS site and group, and yeah, so I put it in the group, so if anybody wants to sign that petition, they're quite welcome to go to the group. Yeah.
But I think the point that I would make is when police or, you know, government authorities are looking to potentially introduce legislation that makes the use of pepper spray legal and lawful, it would seem to me that your case is actually one of those that's quite representative of responsible use of pepper spray.
Yeah.
And in a situation where you were fearful for your life, very justifiably so, when you've got someone coming after you with a bat and another person trying to trip you over and another person throwing a blanket over you while you're on someone's property, simply to reclaim your personal belongings, your lawful, proper personal possessions, as instructed by the police. They did say that you could deal with things civilly.
Why would the police tell me something that's against the law? I didn't know it was against the law to knock on someone's door to rightfully ask.
Well, that's the thing. It's not against the law. And when you were on that property and you were going to be assaulted, police did nothing to charge the offenders in that scenario. And that is probably the greater injustice. It's bad enough to be facing charges yourself, but that the people who physically threatened your life have gotten away with it.
I probably should have said no comment, but when you're autistic and ADHD and you're so traumatised, sometimes you just don't think of the right things to say, the right time,
But do you think
you've got a sense of injustice and the truth comes out and you dob yourself in? So I'd be terrible at lying myself because I'd dob myself in anyway.
Yes, you're not a very good liar. Certainly not in my experience. You suck at lying.
I sure do. I'm well aware of that. And sometimes I kick my own ass, so there you go.
But I think it's important for people out there to be able to hear your story, and I'm sure that it will teach people a valuable lesson about how very vulnerable some people with disabilities can be, and how easy. I mean, you're a smart woman. You're not a dumb or foolish woman by any means.
I've been trying all my life and put myself through education.
But my point is, if it was easy for you to get sucked in,
yep,
then I think many other people probably have been sucked in by Hayden. And probably others like him.
Hundreds, yes.
Probably.
Hundreds, yes.
Probably. And I'm very, very sorry for your experience. Is there anything that you would really like to add? Because this is your forum, not mine. Are you happy with the questions that we've been asking? And
Definitely, to tell my story, because the police don't listen, the government don't listen, and you know, it's like the people that matter that are supposed to listen, supposed to look after, supposed to help, supposed to protect you. Never have my entire life. Since the 60s to this very day, they never have and never will.
And you're sort of trapped in a situation where at the present time it's illegal to use pepper spray.
Yep.
And the legislation doesn't appear, and
In
your
Northern
lawyer,
Territory, it's legal.
Yeah. But I guess my point is that I'm not a lawyer, and I certainly have not researched this area, but it appears the legislation doesn't allow for reasonable situations at the present time for a person to use pepper spray in self-defence. And that is really how you used it. It was in self-defence. It was not to hurt or injure or maim someone.
So what the law is telling me, really, the way I perceive it, is suck it up, buttercup, lay down and die and take it like a woman. I won't say take it like a man, because to me, men are gutless. Sorry, cameraman, no offence. But, yeah, to me, men are gutless and women are not allowed to protect themselves. So it's a man's world. What can we do when it's a man's world controlled by men, and we have to, they're following the Bible in this case, women must be subjected to the men.
Well, I do think, I hope, most reasonable people watching this video will see that if ever there was a case that would justify a defence of reasonable use of pepper spray, I think yours would pretty much qualify for it. And for that, I'm really grateful that you've shared your story, Susan. And I hope that maybe there will be regulators or, you know, members of parliament or people out there who might want to champion the cause and perhaps use yours as an example of why it should be made legal and why ultimately common sense should prevail. Now, if it's okay with you, Susan, and if it's not okay, then we can delete this part of the video. But one of the injustices after being charged is that you've had to prove yourself as being mentally competent, because for you to get off the charge, you would have to be rendered mentally incompetent.
And I'd have to wear on my file as well.
Yes.
Well, I've been to court a few times in my life. 20 years ago I went to court. I asked to go to court to dispute a red light incident. And even though the judge he had my file in front of him. It was a 3-panel because he was teaching the other judges in Port Adelaide. And he said, second sentence, my GP, what happened to you could have easily happened to me. And then he gave me the biggest sermon and speech of my entire life on how valuable I was to the community. And I just stood there and cried my eyes out, because up until then, 20 years ago, nobody had said I was a good person. Only one teacher in my entire life had acknowledged that, and said I was always a trier, and I don't get enough credit for it. But yeah, and now the police are raising that issue too, and it's like, well, I chose to go to court. And all the other times the judges are like, why are you even here? And it's like, why am I here?
Well, can I say, Sue, if you've only been told once, I will tell you a second time, you are a very good person and you have got a very good heart. And I know that because you've helped people around me and you have taken notice of the people who have been disadvantaged, and you've reached out to me to help those individuals. So I want to put that on the record, that you're a very kind, generous and soft-hearted person, although your exterior is pretty tough.
Yeah, I've had many people say that, even councils, things like that, and, you know.
But I think, because the system is now putting you in a situation where you either have to be rendered mentally incompetent to avoid being prosecuted, charged and possibly even jailed or fined very heavily, whereas you've gone down the other path, and that is you refuse to be rendered mentally incompetent, even though it would be an easy option out for you. Because
I've had my life destroyed on my record because of other people wanting me to wear things that's not my fault or that other people did, like 20 years ago. And, I just don't have to wear it all the time.
Yeah. So, thank you, Sue. I'm sorry that it's been distressing for you to tell your story, but it is something that you wanted to push through with. You were the one that was fairly regularly calling me, messaging me, saying, when are we going to do this? So I hope you're happy with where things have gone.
I just want to mention one more thing with courts too. I've only ever had one nasty judge, only once in my early 30s, over my daughter's father and his girlfriend. And the judge wanted me to wear a restraining order a minute, wear it tonight, just wear it. And it's like, well, the funny thing is, I had no car, never driven my life, and still not had my licence at the time, and didn't know where they lived. But because he paid $50 to go to court in a private, the judge wanted me to wear it and suck it up, buttercup. And I think, the justice system has always been crap and unfair, always.
Well, I do find from experience that people with disabilities, especially if you're on a pension, especially if you don't have assets and you haven't got, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to lay down on the table for a lawyer to represent you, you're never going to get much justice at all.
I know.
And you're at the mercy of basically public servants,
Well, like,
police or
yeah.
child protection authorities or guardianship authorities.
I did opt to take that one to trial too, and that trial lasted 5 seconds flat. 5 seconds flat because the female judge, she was beautiful, and yes, she acknowledged and she knew the truth.
So thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Matilda, and thank you, cameraman.